Hello and welcome back to the Railwaymen podcast. We are back with a special episode. To help me out today, I've got Mark Birtles and Alex Arani. Hello, guys.
Hi, Stu.
Hello, everybody.
I am delighted to say that we are also here to record our second ever podcast with a current Crewe Alex captain. We had Luke Murphy a couple of years ago, and now we are joined by Mickey Demetriou. Hello, Mickey.
Hi guys, you okay?
All good. Can I start? Did I say that right?
Near enough, I'll take that. Demetriou. It's like a silent U at
Demetriou.
the end of it. Yeah,
Okay.
Demetriou. So, but
Okay.
that was a good attempt. I've had a lot of attempts in my career, and that was a good one.
As someone who says your name on a weekly basis, it is good to know that it is Demetriou. Okay, so now
Yeah,
that is it. I've got it now. Thank you.
no
Um,
problem.
Mickey, what we normally do with these podcasts is we start at the start and then we sort of work our way forward. So we'll do that today. I believe you're from Worthing in Sussex, so right down in the south. How
I
did you
am.
get
Yeah.
how did you get into football? When did you discover you were pretty good at it?
I just started when I was probably 5 or 6, really, just kicking about with family in the garden or friends down the park, and just enjoyed it really. And just I never thought. Fast forward, what was it now? 29 years later. The career that I've had, I wouldn't have thought about it. So no, I feel fortunate enough that I have, and hopefully there's a little bit longer to continue with it.
And then you're from Worthing, and your first professional club is Worthing. That must have been a pretty nice thing to run out for the
Yeah, it
local
was
club.
quite nice. It was all from 6 to 16. I was playing just Sunday football with my mates, called Worthing Dynamos, um, with and that was just Sunday league really. And then once that finished, we didn't have an under 17s, 18s. It just stopped at 16s, and so then just as I was leaving school, I was saying, "Oh, where am I going to be playing next?" Never came through an academy or anything like that. So I thought I wrote to Worthing to see if I can get into their under 18s team, and I think one of the coaches knew one of my school teachers, and he invited me down for a trial for the under 18s, and then yeah, just started from there. Went to pre-season with them. Thankfully, I got into that, and then 2 years later, I completed the under 18 sort of level, and then made my first team debut there.
Were you a defender as a kid in Sunday League? Because normally these footballers that
No,
make it.
I was a left winger all through Sunday League, left winger or centre forward.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Normally, the players that make it, they start off as a striker and then they get moved further and further back. Not that I'm saying
yeah,
you're not good at football, but
no, it is one of them ones. It was. I only went. I've been a defender properly, really, probably now 10 years. I think it was 10 years, 11 years now. Or I think my first proper game as a defender was as a out and out defender. I filled in when I was 19 at centre half, but that was it. And then went to left back at 21.
do you feel like you're
And
learning the role now?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's been long enough now. If I'm not, I'm still learning every day. But if I haven't learned that much from it, then there'll be a few worries about it.
Wikipedia says you got. I'm just looking at it now. 10 goals in 36 games for Worthing, which I thought that was an impressive tally from.
Yeah, it was. It was. I enjoyed playing up front, and I think I was left winger at that point. I enjoyed playing out wide or up front, and yeah, I only filled in at centre half for a favour with my really when I went to Bognor. The centre half was injured, and it was my coach, Dan Kilpatrick, who said I needed to fill in centre half. Obviously, I was the size that I was probably now, and I said, yeah, no problem, and enjoyed it there. Then went back to left wing and up front for a little bit more, and then it was only when I went out to the Glenn Hoddle Academy at how old was I? 18, 19, I think I was. 19, yeah, 19, I think I was, and he's kept me as a left back. So yeah, it was one of them. It was a strange one. I didn't plan on it. It just sort of fell into place.
Can you talk about the Glenn Hoddle Academy? Because I think there's people like me who sort of knew it was a thing vaguely, but I don't really know much more about it. I believe it's a place for players in England mainly that didn't quite make it in the pro
Yeah,
leagues.
it was. I had no idea what it was. If I'm honest, I just in a game for Bognor against Worthing, and apparently they came to look at the striker. And at the time, I was playing centre half, and the scouts invited me to trial with them. And it's basically mainly for team players that get let go from professional clubs. So me and the striker on a day obviously we were just playing semi-pro football. We weren't professionals. We weren't just coming out of academies. So we were not rare, but a one-off sort of thing that got invited to trial. And I spent 6 months out in Spain with them in Jerez, and it was a great experience. It was unbelievable. It was full of ex-professionals, probably 16, 17, 18-year-olds that have unfortunately, after their scholarships got released, it just gives them a chance to get back into the game. And we used to play games over in England and in Spain against Spanish teams. English teams flew over to play against us. It just allowed scouts to come and watch the games, really.
Any famous names that you played with in the academy?
Apart
from yourself, obviously.
No, apart from loads. Sam Klukas was out there. He's had a pretty good career. Jordan Hugel, who's now at Rotherham. Omar Beckles at Leyton Orient now. So there was a few big names that have come through it.
Ex-Crewe, Omar Beckles. So there's a connection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We still talk now. To be fair, we're quite good friends about it. Obviously, the Crewe link is there. I was talking to him yesterday. Actually, I was on the phone to
him. You said Jerez. I think an English person would pronounce it Jerez or something similar.
Yeah, we would pronounce that. It's Jerez.
Jerez Industrials. It's an interesting football team.
Yeah, so they took over. I think it was Spanish third division at the time. The academy took over that, supplied it with players, coaching staff, and then we literally played in the third division of Spanish football, which was an eye opener. I didn't play many games, but that's probably a good thing. So I probably would have been sent off a few times because you're not allowed to tackle out there. So there was a lot of yellow cards for our team, and no one could understand a word the ref was saying. So yeah, it was an experience, but it was a good one. It was a good one to sort of learn how football's played out there.
What did they make of you then as a team? If you were this bunch of young English lads all away from home, all fouling all these Spanish players, what was the reputation?
A lot of the time, the reputation was quite good because and obviously the name of the academy's big whatever country you're in. With obviously because Glenn himself was there a lot. We had Dave Besant as one of the coaches, Graham Ricks, Alan. George Foster, there was a few, Nigel Spackman. So there's a lot of big names back then in the football. So there was a lot of respect for the coaches. We had a Spanish coach as well that was a well-known name over there, part of the academy to obviously help us with a lot of the things obviously over in the Spanish leagues. So yeah, it was obviously, but we did quite well. Spanish teams didn't really like that, but it was they had to learn from that, and it was a learning curve for us as well.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think that going out there was instrumental for you to come back and to make it in first the National League and then League Two, League One? Is that a big part of your journey as a footballer?
Yeah, I think so. I think it gave me the confidence. If I'm being brutally honest, it gave me the confidence to think, yeah, okay, I could do this. When I came back and went out in July, came back in the December when we came home for Christmas. I didn't go back out.
So you don't go back to Spain, you go to Eastbourne in January. I'm going to hand over to Alex because before we started recording, he told me that your paths crossed at Eastbourne.
I was in my not as a footballer. I was in my final year at university at the Eastbourne campus doing sport journalism, and for a multimedia journalism module, I interviewed, I think it was the then chairman, Len Smith, I think his name was. Right. And we were talking about, I can't remember what the topic was, but I went down to, is it Priory Lane where they play?
Yeah, Priory Lane, yeah.
And
the windiest place in the world it was.
Yeah, it was. I went there in like May time, and it was overcast and grim. And I was like, "This is the Sunshine Coast, and it's not particularly sunny."
No.
And yeah, it was only when I was looking through your career today, I was like, "Oh right, it's 6 months. His 6 months at Eastbourne coincided with my final 6 months at university."
Yeah, I was there. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. I didn't play that many games, but they were fighting relegation. So I think the managers were in one of them ones. Were going to stick with what they knew. The experienced players that they had, and it was only until I think relegation was almost confirmed I actually started playing. So yeah, the first couple of months was a bit hard. So I came back, I wasn't playing, It was only towards the end that I started getting games. I enjoyed being there.
It must have gone quite well though for you, even if you weren't playing much, because obviously Eastbourne didn't stay up, but Kidderminster took you on to keep you in the league.
Yeah.
Was that,
So
yeah?
at the end of the Eastbourne wanted me to stay. They offered me a full-time contract at the time, but because I did quite well when I was playing, I back again. I was writing letters to the conference clubs just because I didn't have an agent at the time. Didn't know what one of those was at that point. And it was funny. I played Kidderminster when I was at Eastbourne. They came down, and I must have had a good game. And they rang me up in the summer and said, "Look, we want you to." I didn't have to come on trial. They just wanted me to sign for them. So it was quite nice then, and that was the first proper. They were full time at the time, so that was my first full time contract at 21.
You've mentioned you've written letters to clubs, I think 2 or 3 times already. Is that something that you were doing? Is that something that you were encouraged to do? It's not something you hear a lot about, or maybe you do, and you just don't hear the success
Yeah,
stories.
it was just no, mate. It was mainly. It's just I don't really know why it's just, I didn't know anybody. Like I said, I didn't have an agent. So the only way I could get my name out there was writing to the managers of the clubs at the time. So that was the only way I knew how to. So I just put a little CV along, and see what happened. If nothing came of it, then nothing came on it. I would have just carried on probably playing for either Worthing or Bognor. But at the time, because I had taste of National League at the time, I was like, I want to try and make something of it and see if I can go a little bit higher. And yeah, Kidderminster gave me the opportunity.
Were you working a full-time job alongside playing part-time?
So I was part-time job. I was working for Brighton in the community, coaching, going into schools, whether that was football. Also done a little bit with Sussex cricket as well. So I enjoyed my cricket when I was younger. So I had to make the choice between cricket and football. And
So
I chose football in the end.
What did Kidderminster sign you as?
A left back.
Left
So they
back,
signed me as a left back. Yeah, they gave me a 1-year deal to start with as a left back, and it was Steve Burr and Gary Wild. And they signed me as a left back, and then in the January I signed a new 2-year contract. But it was quite hard at the start because I was going in. The current left back at the time was the club captain. So for me, I was only 21. I was like, just bide my time, sort of just train well, get a chance. And unfortunately for him, he got injured, gave me my chance in the October, and then I never came out of the team from then. So yeah, I must have taken the chance, and we came 8th, I think it was, just outside the playoffs at the time.
Was that more of a traditional left back role, or like
Yeah, that was a traditional
up and down the wing?
Well, probably still up and down. That's a traditional, isn't it? Left back at the time, and we're talking 13 years ago. It's a little bit different nowadays, isn't it? They just stay up front nowadays, so and let the centre halves defend.
I mean, you had a taste of left back last year at Forest Green on the hottest
I
day.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. It was the hottest day in the world, and we're in an all black kit, and it was so hot. And the change room had no windows. It was like I said, the hottest day of the year, and I chose that game to play left back. But I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it. It was obviously, that was the first time in about probably 6 years, I think it was, since I'd been out there. So yeah, it was nice to be back out there.
Just finishing on your time at Kidderminster, because obviously you do make the step up to the league. It's 3 seasons, pretty consistent football. It must have gone quite well because you said you finished about 8th the first year, just outside the playoffs. The second year, you make it to the playoffs. It is only the 1 game, though, at Wrexham. But it must have been quite nice playing in a good football team at that level and maybe thinking that, I could maybe go on and challenge myself a bit higher here.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that was what gave me the confidence to go and play. I played 100 and something games for them over 3 years. In that second year, we lost the league on 95 points. We came second, and Mansfield won it on 98. I remember the last game of the season, we needed to win 4-0, and we needed Mansfield just to drop points. We beat Stockport 4-0. They got relegated that day. And Mansfield...
Sorry to interrupt you, Mickey, but what a sentence that is. You beat Stockport 4-0 and you relegated them. Yeah, everyone listening honestly, has just cheered in their car or their kitchen, whoever. Yeah, what a sentence.
We won 4-0, and Wrexham. It was Wrexham v Mansfield, and for the previous 6 or 7 games, Wrexham was safe in the playoffs. They couldn't get caught, so they were like resting players left, right, and centre, and they played an almost academy side against Mansfield, and Mansfield got a lucky penalty and scored it in the 70th minute, and obviously that took them above us to win the league. And and then we fell short over 2 legs against Wrexham in the playoffs.
This is testing your knowledge, but do you know who scored for Wrexham that day for any interested Crewe fans? He's a defender. He's managing in the Football League.
It was David Artell, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gibraltar International. Yeah, Dave Artell scored.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it in the first leg or the second leg he scored?
First one, yeah.
The first leg away from home. Yeah, I think we lost 2-1. I think it was 2 or 3.
I'm looking at here. Yeah, Mickey.
And then 3-1 in the second leg.
Yeah, so he was playing.
I missed that one.
Any other Crewe fans listen? Dele Adibola came off the bench as a little blast from the past Crewe fans.
Yeah,
as well.
Unfortunately, I missed the second leg due to I think I pulled my quad in the first leg. I was just devastated I missed the second leg because I felt like we would have back at home. We would have had a good opportunity to overturn it.
So the time at Kidderminster does go well for you personally, and it leads you to signing for then League Two side Shrewsbury. Again, pretty successful season. Do you want to talk us through that first year with Shrewsbury?
Yeah, it was probably my most successful season that I've had because of how it ended. I played 44 games or something like that, and we ended up coming second, so we got promoted, automatic promotion back up to League One, which was what the aim was at the start of the season. It was a transition. I think we brought in 13, 14 new players. Mickey Mellon, new manager at the time, signed that year and brought me in along with 13 or 14 players, and we gelled pretty quickly straight away. Really, I don't think there was many times in the season that we weren't in and around the top 3. Especially towards after Christmas time, and so yeah, I was buzzing for the whole year really. I got my first league club, my debut. I scored on my debut, and we won the game 2-1. So yeah, I was buzzing that year, and then the highs and lows of football came pretty quickly because the second year was completely different.
Can you just briefly talk us through that? Because you didn't make an appearance in League One and you went on loan fairly early on in the season to Cambridge after having what seems like a really successful season the year before.
Yeah, from the outside in, it'll be very strange looking at it. But I always remember a phone call that I had. We just came back from Marbella on the promotion party. And I had a phone call, didn't recognise the number, answered it, and it was Martin Foyle, who was at Northampton. He was the director of football at Northampton, and he introduced himself and stuff like that. And he said, we would like to sign you. And I was like, right, okay. With all due respect, I've just got promoted. They were in League Two at the time. I said, with all due respect, I've just got promoted. I want to give myself a chance of playing in League One. And he said, his words are, we've been told you're not going to play. And I was like, right, okay, well, I haven't been told any of that. So let me make some phone calls and see what the plan is. And that's fine. We want you. We want to sign you. So we're going to speak to the club. They put in 3 offers in, and the club turned them down, all 3 of them. So I was like, well, they obviously want me to be here. That's a good sign. So then I went into pre-season, and so that's 6 weeks later, went into pre-season, and 2 days in, manager pulls me in and said I could leave. And so I was a bit shocked. I said, well, why? What's changed, sort of thing? Because I don't know if I knew about Northampton. So I pulled them up on it. I said, well, why didn't you let me leave to North? Because I would have went. If they'd rang me and said, you're Mick, we're going to go in a different route, we're going to bring more experience in because we've gone up a league, I would have understood it. And I would have probably went to Northampton because they were having a go, good manager at the time, and they were going to go for it that year. And I said, why didn't you let me go to Northampton? And he said, we didn't want to sell you then. So I said, well, what's changed in 4-5 weeks? And he just couldn't really give me an answer on that one. So yeah, it was a tough time, I'll be honest. I didn't agree with it. But I said, no, right, I'm going to prove a point. I'm going to stay. I'm not leaving. Trained all pre-season. every day he was trying to make me leave the club because he obviously wanted to sign other players, and I was like, no, I believe I'm good enough to play. I backed myself at the time after coming off a good season with them. So yeah, it was a tough one, and I ended up not playing pre-season games because I was playing well, and then it was trying to prove a point that you're not even going to play pre-season games now. We get to a point we don't want you. So for me, after coming off getting promoted in my first year to then have that 6 weeks, 7 weeks later, it was like, yeah, it was pretty tough, and yeah, it was quite hard to accept it. But it got to a point where I wasn't really even training in the start of the season came. I wasn't really training because he wanted me to train away from the group at the time. And I'll say all this now because he knows, but we're pretty good friends now still, because it's football. It's a brutal world of football. And I always talk to him now. I've played against Mickey many times, and it was a conversation he had with my agent, and he apologized for how he dealt with it at the time, but he was getting a bit of pressure from above, as people do, wanting to sign players, trying to free up a budget. And for me, coming in from non-league to that, I've never experienced it. So it got to, I think it was the transfer deadline day, end of September, start of September. I said, right, I can't do this anymore. Going down to Cambridge, and stayed there for 6 months. And yeah, I enjoyed my time, but and what killed me, a new manager came in that time and brought his own loan players in. So he had 6 or 7 loan players, and obviously he's not going to not play the players that he's brought in himself. I think he thought I was permanent signing. So then when that happened, I stopped playing. So that at that point, I just wanted to come back. So at that point, I was like, just get me home. I'm not enjoying my football now. My wife was up, my then girlfriend was up here on her own. So I was like, I'm traveling 3 times a week down to Cambridge. It just wasn't helping anyone. So January came, I said, look, I'm going to come back. And then, yeah, I just played reserve team football. Got a chance in April because there was injuries, which was the annoying thing, because I think if I'd stayed, they had a lot of injuries. They weren't doing well. I probably would have got a chance sooner. So that was probably my biggest regret, not staying, getting forced out.
And you said you played against that former manager a few times. You ever left one on him?
No, not. I didn't play against him, just against one of his teams.
Oh, okay.
And to touchwood, so far, I've always had a good game. So, and he's apologised to me himself. So we've got there's no hard feelings on it. It's just the brutal world of football that people don't realise.
Just throwing some pizza down the tunnel after the game.
But no, yeah, like I said, we get on now. It's just, I think that probably helped me become the player that I am today, because I realised it's not all joy. There is big lows in football, and that was one of them for me.
If you look at your stats on Soccer Base, which I'll be honest, I have been doing since you've agreed to come on this podcast, it is quite noticeable. When you're at a club, you're playing, and then there is this gap. It's like a year and a half, isn't it? So you're at Cambridge from September to January-ish, and then you come back, you have 1 game in League One at the end of the season for Shrewsbury.
Yeah, that's to say, I tore my meniscus in that game, and that was a tough year for me, that one. Came back, obviously didn't play until April, got a chance because of injuries. Very eventful game, tore my meniscus, ended up playing in goal because the keeper got sent off. So I finished the game in goal. My knee was massive. I went in the next day to text the physio on the Sunday saying, look, Skitty at the time, Chris Skitt is unbelievable, helped me through a lot of things. I said, my knee's absolutely killing. It's ballooned up. He saw me on a Monday. I think you've done some damage. Went for a scan, and yeah, that's season over. Meniscus, 6 months, and yeah, it was a tough one because I actually had a good game. Probably because of injuries, I probably would have finished the season off playing. So unfortunately for me, that was my time done really at Shrewsbury. It came to the end of the season, ended up getting released. I then went on trial around different teams. And the reason why there's a big gap in that, I broke my foot when I went on trial at Fleetwood. So then I was out for 6 months then. So from April to January, I was out of contract and injured. So yeah, it was a tough year for me, that one.
Just out of interest then, it's a bit of a boring question, but I think people don't see that side of football, what you've just articulated, and you talk about the brutal side of it. What's it like for a lad of that age when you're meeting a missus and you're trying to get a mortgage and you might be moving from one end of the country to the other. It must be hard to sort of build a life at the same time as building a career.
It was tough because we bought a house. So that was when we were 24. We bought a house in the June, just after I finished recovering from my knee. And I then went on trial because we wanted to be based around Shrewsbury anyway, because we thought middle of the country, I can go anywhere from here for football. So we just purchased our first house, and then going on trial, I went up to Fleetwood, and the day that I was, so they say, we were talking, my agent was talking, because I had an agent at that point then. We were talking about signing the contract because I'd done well in the first week. I then went and broke my foot on the Friday. So my fifth metatarsal, and then obviously that contract's not there, which is fair. It happens. So yeah, then I went from thinking I'm signing a contract at Fleetwood to then another low, out for then 4 to 6 months really.
What
so yeah,
happens?
that was brutal.
You should have medical, like you'd need to rehab and all that sort of stuff. Did it
To be fair to
PFAs?
Fleetwood, they took care of all that because I did it training with them. So they arranged appointments with consultants and stuff like that. They offered me the chance to do all my rehab there, but because it was 3.5 hours away, I was like, I'd rather just be at home at the time. So I went and spoke to Chris Skip, the Shrewsbury physio, and said, look, I broke my foot. When training's all over and that, can I come in when I was able to? We're talking probably, I couldn't do anything for 6 to 8 weeks anyway. I was in a boot. So there was nothing I could do about that. The PFA took care of sort of medical costs if I came across any. So yeah, they looked after me in that way. But yeah, so I'd gone from getting promoted 1 year to then being really out of football for at least 10 months, not getting paid until January. So yeah, it was a tough one for me. But like I said, it's probably allowed me to be the player that I am now because I don't take any of it for granted.
That was definitely something I've got 3 things I was going to sort of comment on and ask you questions on, Mickey, based on what you just said. The first one, we've got about 6 or 7 professional level goalkeeper coaches that come on this podcast quite regularly, or we think we are. So if you want us to assess your goalkeeper performance, you can send us the clips in and we'll...
I wouldn't. It was apart from the penalty attempt to try and save it, the rest of it was good. With one knee, I'd say I'll accept it. But the penalty dive, if anyone wants to see it, it's terrible. It's terrible.
The other couple of points I was going to make is, but you've sort of talked about it, and I will leave this bit to when we're talking about Crewe and the fact that, there is not a Crewe fan who doesn't like you playing for the club, but we'll come to that later. The other one I was going to mention is, you said the manager you sort of had an issue with at the time, but you have addressed that, you've talked about that. Does a relationship within a club like that, does it have an effect on your feelings towards the football club as well? Like, how do you feel about Shrewsbury Town?
I still follow them now. I've still got friends that have played for them. I've still got fans that talk to me now. So yeah, I've not got a bad word to say about the club because, like I say, it's just the way football is. And at the time, the manager wanted to go a different way. If he had changed his mind during at any point of that, then it could have been completely different. I could have stayed there for 2 or 3, 4 years, 5 years, because I got on well with all the fans. Because at the end of the day, I went there and played 40-something games, and we got promoted. So the relationship that I build wherever I am will always be there.
There's definitely a correlation between you and the clubs that you've played for, because after the Shrewsbury, your time at Shrewsbury ends, it is eventually Newport that joins you. I talk to a Newport podcast. I don't know if you're aware of them, the 1912 Exiles, twice a season before our games against them. Every single time I talk to them, the first question is, how's Mickey getting on? You looking after Mickey? So there's definitely a correlation between you, your football clubs, and the feelings that the fans have towards you as a footballer, and I would say as well as a person.
Yeah, that's just the way I am. I give everything out on the pitch, but I also give everything off the pitch because I will always give time to the fans if they want me for 5 minutes, if they want me for 50 minutes. I'll always stand and have a chat after a game if they need me to. I'll always come and have a picture with their kids because at the end of the day, a 10-second picture for me is worth a million times more for that little kid that it will always put a smile on. And so for me, I will always encourage that to any footballer that I always talk to. So you have to give back, because at the end of the day, they're there to support you week in, week out. And it means a lot more for you to go and have a picture with them than it takes you to actually go and do it. So and that's stayed with me for every club I've been at, whether that was at Worthing when I was 17, 18. It's just the person that I am. I always try and give my time to people that would like it.
Talking about Newport then, as an outsider, I don't really follow Newport too closely, but as an outsider looking at your stats, 6.5 seasons, out of those 6 full seasons, 45 or 46 league appearances in 4 of those seasons, 2 Wembley appearances in playoff finals. It looks like it went quite well, your time down in South Wales.
Yeah, it was probably, I found a home from what happened the previous year. Look, I always remember Graham Wesley was the manager. He took over in like the October, and he tried to sign me in the October, November time, but obviously I was still recovering from my foot injury. So as soon as I was able to, obviously that back then, I was then in January, I was like, right, I'm ready. I need to go and play football. Spoke to a couple of different teams, and Newport was one of them. But at the time, they were
bottom of the Football League, I'm sure.
Bottom of the Football League, yeah. They were by a fair whack. So I was thinking, do I want that? The last proper season I've just done, I've just got promoted. I believe I'm good enough to be playing higher than that. But because of the fact I didn't play for then 7 months, everyone was like, we need him to play games. He can't play games without someone giving him a chance. So yeah, I decided to go down to Newport in the January. The first training session, bearing in mind I've just come off the back of a meniscus in my knee and a broken foot. The first training session was a 2.5-hour training session on 4G. So yeah, it was a tough one. So it's the best. I still talk to a lot of players now, and it's always the one that we always talk about is that first training session, because Graham Wesley brought in a lot of new players in the January. And on that session, there was a back 4 being seen or spoken to each other before that day. So I hadn't even signed for the club, and we were doing shape in a back 4 with 3 other new players that had signed for the club. So yeah, it was an interesting one. And I'll always remember after that we did, and he's always known for a hard taskmaster, as if you hear the stories about him. And we did we ended up doing doggies up and down the pitch. It was only till I think we did 10 box to boxes after that long session. And after it, he said, I only did that to see if you could do it and see if you'd be committed to the rest of your teammates, because if you stopped, they'd have to do it again. So I was like, well, thanks for that. I've been out for 6-7 months, and you've just made me do 2.5-hour training session and then do 10 box to boxes, and the lads were absolutely blowing from it. And so that was just but like I said, that's the character that I wasn't going to let that lot down, and I got in the car and drove straight home. And he rang me the next day saying, are you not in? I said, well, I didn't know what was going on. You didn't say anything. I said, no, I want you to come back in. So I said, I'll come down on Monday. We'll have a chat. And 6.5 years later, it obviously worked out well.
I mean, he only lasted about 6.5 more weeks, didn't he?
He did last 6.5, because we were struggling. Like I said, we were struggling. And I played with Michael Flynn, who took over. When I went there, he was in the reserve team. He was a coach at the time. I played with him in the reserve team. I then went in from player coach to captain of the reserve team and captain of the first team with him, to then manager. So in the space of 12 weeks, he'd gone from teammate, coach to manager. So it was a bit of a strange one. But we thankfully turned it around, and on the last day of the season, we stayed up, and that was probably the best memory that it will take some doing. The only thing it will do was another promotion, really. Because to see what it meant to the city of Newport, the club probably would have folded if we'd got relegated that day, because the Welsh Rugby Union wanted to take over the ground, turn it into a 4G, and I think the club would have probably folded because of the money problems it would have been in. So to see what it meant to all the fans and the players and the staff of the football club was massive.
And if I remember rightly, Crewe did their bit as well. You turned us over 2-1 at Gresty Road.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that was his first game, I think it was. And
yeah,
I remember he didn't start me, and I was raging. And I came on in the end, so I think someone got injured. And yeah, it was 2-1. I remember that one because I think it was his first proper game in charge when it got announced that he was taking it to the end of the season. And yeah, I think we won 6 out of 12, maybe something like that. We had 13 points adrift when we took over, and then we ended up 2 points above it come the end of the season. So yeah, it was good time, and then I ended up staying for another 6 seasons after that.
We're going to get onto Crewe in a minute, but just before we do, and I feel like we've probably got more relevant stories about Wembley heartbreak coming up in the Crewe season. But your career so far that you've described to us, it sounds like you've fought tooth and nail to make it as a professional footballer. What is it like walking out on the Wembley pitch for the first time in a playoff final?
Oh, it's every boy's dream, isn't it, to play at the home of football? But at the moment, I currently hate it because I've been there 4 times as a player, one time as a fan. I've not celebrated a goal, so it's very heartbreaking. The memories from Wembley aren't good, and that's with two playoff finals with Newport. Both we should have had the opportunity to score. I'll put it that way. We a couple of bad refereeing decisions have stopped that, and one in the FA Cup against Spurs when they were ground sharing, and then obviously last season was even worse because I thought it might have been third time lucky in the playoffs, but unfortunately it wasn't. And I think the previous heartbreaks probably made it a little bit easier to get over because of the way it happened. It was in normal time and not the 118th minute of extra time. So yeah, as hard as it is to walk out on Wembley was a dream come true for me, especially the route that I've had into football. I feel like I've started in non-league, and when you play at Wembley, a lot of players have never done that. They've finished their careers, and I've been lucky enough so far, touch wood, to play there 4 times.
Let's move on to signing for Crewe then. I think I remember at the time when we heard that you were coming in, it was mostly, and I use the word mostly, hoping you would disagree with this, mostly due to the fact that your family was up here, and that was a big part of it. Was that a big part, or was it a small part? What did you know of Crewe Alex, the club?
I knew quite a bit, to be fair, because the season, so 2 seasons before that, the last time I signed a new deal with Newport, Crewe showed a bit of interest. So that was when you were in League One. Yeah, they showed a little bit of interest, but what we were told is that the board, I think I was 31 at the time, the board weren't so keen because of age, because obviously it's not the norm for Crewe. So they're not normally used to bringing in more experienced players. They like to bring in younger but still played games, so which is fine. So I ended up staying, and I only wanted to see what that was because of obviously the family home was still based in Shrewsbury. We would have then moved back home. We would have done what we're doing now, sort of thing. And at the time I was like, well, and because it was League One, Michael Flynn would always allow me, if League One interest came in, to talk to them because he understood that I wanted to play as high as I could. So when that didn't come, I re-signed with Newport straight away. And so last season when it came out that I was leaving Newport, the gaffer rang me and rang my agent and said that can we talk to him? Can we talk to Mickey? Can we get him in? And yeah, I think the chats lasted probably a week at the time because I was waiting to see because I didn't really know. First time I've been out of contract for six years, so I was like, right, what are we going to do? Where are we going to settle next? Because it was a big one for me. Now my boys are 7 and 4 now. It was time to put them first because obviously I'm hoping to play for a few more years, many years as I can. But I need to think about them. They followed me around for the last 6 years, so now it's time to put them a little bit first as well. So when the opportunity came up, I sort of wanted to explore it and see what happened. And I went in, I trained for a couple of weeks before it all happened. And being in there, I wanted to prove to myself and prove to the club that, okay, I'm 30, what did I say, 33 at the time. But for me, touch wood, I'm not a normal 33-year-old. I've just come off, like you say, I've come off the back of playing 45, 46, couple of 50-game seasons off the back of it. So I've just played 300 games in 6 years. So I'm someone that, yeah, okay, I'm 33, but I will still play games. I'd like to say I proved that to them last season by playing over 50 games. And I think I only missed one half because the gaffer didn't trust me with a broken toe. So yeah, it's one of them ones that when it came off, it was sort of like, we can settle again. We're still in Shrewsbury. We are looking to move up this year or early next year because we want to be a little bit closer just to make it easier. The boys can settle in a school. And because at the end of the day, we see our future there now. So,
how does he sell it, Belly?
Well, just before you start, Mickey, I was going to ask that question, but I was also going to ask, how did he sell himself? He's only been a manager for 8 months at that point. So, how does he sell the club, like Mark says? But how did he sell himself as a manager?
He didn't really have to, really, because he just was being honest. He didn't have to sell himself because I didn't know. At the time, I didn't know anything about Lee. So he just said, look, I'm new to being a manager, but we want you to come in and we want you to be the experienced player that I need to sort of help the young boys through. Maybe if there's a tough times through the season, use your experience and lean on me to also navigate through different situations. So that allowed me to sort of think about, yeah, okay, that's a next step that maybe I want to explore. And so I came in. He said, just come in. I'm in an agent. He said, because there was a couple of other clubs that have come in, but because of location wise, I was like, if I can get something with Crewe, I'd like to pursue that. So he said, we'll go in and train because they were still sorting their budgets out and stuff like that. And I think they needed to release a few. Try and find a few. I think a few boys were going out on loan at the time, so they wanted that to be done first before I was to come in, sort of thing. So he said, "Well, just go in and train, prove that you're willing to come and put yourself out there, and do it." So yeah, like I said, I was there for I think it was 2 weeks before I ended up signing.
What were the other clubs that were in for you?
At the time, we were holding out for. Well, I say holding out for. We were told that Notts County were waiting for one of their players to either sign, and if he didn't sign, then the contract was there for me to take. So I was waiting. At the time, I hadn't heard from Crewe at that point. So then that didn't happen, and the other one was Crawley, funnily enough. And they were probably the most keen club that I've ever spoken to in my career. They want apart from Gaffer. Once I started speaking to him, they knew everything about me. They knew all my details. They knew all the stats that I've on because they're pretty stat based down there. American owners. I spoke to the owner. I spoke to the manager. So I was very close to going down there and signing. I'll be honest. It would have been the best contract that I would have signed in my career. But that's where I was like, well, my family needs to come first. So it's gone from earning the most that I would have ever earned to back down to normal sort of League Two wages sort of thing, because of the fact that I would have had to move down there. We didn't want to move down there as a family because of it just wasn't the right time to do it. Whereas because we had the opportunity with Crewe coming up and I was pushing out and look, I can't keep saying no to Crawley because they're just making it better, making it harder for me to say no, if that makes sense. So then the gaffer was getting quite agitated and annoyed that not with me, but with the club, that they're slowing things down a little bit. So he was feeling that we're going to lose out on me signing, which probably if it went on for another couple of days, it could have easily have happened. So, but thankfully it didn't. And I earned my way in went out, like I said, went and trained, away, spoke to the gaffer every day. He was speaking to the board every day and said, look, we want to sign him. He's come in just to be here. We can see around the building that he's going to be massive for us. So to hear a manager saying things like that made me want to come even more.
I remember, I know Belly, and we were stood outside here talking that summer, and he told me he was trying to get you, and he was pulling his own hair out. If it had gone much longer, he'd look like me. What did you make of the place?
On, Mark, come on. What
did you make of the place? Because we hear a lot from players that come in that it's quite unusual at Crewe because the kids mix with the first team players. It's, there's no separation. It's all one. So that 2 weeks when you came in, what did you make? And we hear a lot as well, like the training ground is quite good compared to a lot of clubs.
Oh yeah, the facilities at Crewe are unbelievable. But I feel like that's how a football club should be, with the players mixing, because at the end of the day, you want them to be in the first team. So they need to get used to being around the first team. So, and I think that's helped massively, being some of the younger boys that are in and around us last year and now obviously now are first year pros and second year pros. I think that's massive. Whereas at Newport, it was completely different, mainly because we didn't have the facilities to be able to allow it. So it may have been different if we did have, say, like the Crewe, the building, the training facilities, everyone trains at the same place, whereas down at Newport it was completely different. We trained one place, and the academy trained another place. At Shrewsbury, we trained one place, the academy trained at a different place. So I've never really been in that situation before, but now you come to Crewe, it's like it's how probably a football club is run, with that in that aspect. So to see it firsthand, and you always know that Crewe is renowned for bringing in youth team players and giving them that opportunity to go and play, and then quite deservingly they get the opportunity to go and play at a high standard by being sold on. And you just look at the names that have come through the academy here, it's frightening.
Let's get into the season, last season. One of the things we've talked about on the podcast before is just how big of a result that first one was. It wasn't a win, but to go 2-0 down against Mansfield, who are one of the pre-season favourites for the title, after that 25 minutes, and then to come back and not lose, I think that was a big step forward in terms of the squad cohesion and belief that they could do something last year. Is that the case from you as an insider?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was big for players. It was probably big for fans, because it was one. I always remember when I was then ending up talking to Lee and stuff. I was obviously doing a bit of research, and people were worried about how the season would go. We were releasing players and relying on young players to try, and it didn't end very well the season before with a few of the results. It was quite funny because obviously my last game for Newport was against Crewe. So then to come back, obviously against Mansfield, who were probably one of the favourites to go up, and one of the biggest budgets in the league, to then go to find ourselves 2-0 down at our own fault, really, because it was mistakes that we made as a team, to then get ourselves back into the game and get a late equaliser was a big confidence boost for us as players. At that point, we knew we were a good team. So for us, it was like, well, we deserved to be 2-2. We got ourselves back in the game. But I think it was probably bigger for the fans, and thought, oh, this team's got a little bit this year. From this game, they've been 2-0 down. They could have, maybe from the season before, they would have gone under 3-4, 5-0. But we showed a little bit of character and managed to get through back into the game. And that obviously held it all the way through that season. I think when we were never down and out. We backed ourselves always, regardless of what the score is. We'd always go to the last whistle. And a lot of the times we managed to get ourselves back into games like that. Obviously, the next 2 games after that, we did the exact same thing. So it wasn't a plan. We weren't planning on doing that. It's just how it went.
You've just mentioned like setbacks. I think last season, what impressed me most as a Crewe fan who has watched many, many years of Crewe being sort of seen as a soft touch, and if you get after them, they'll crumble. The squad, the spirit inside the squad seemed to be there as quite strong. there was setbacks with Conor O'Riordan going right at the end of January. A big player who turned into this big player throughout that season. Then getting Ed Turns in. Oh, we've replaced Conor O'Riordan with someone who's possibly even better. And then he goes out injured for a long time.
Yeah.
Joe White took ages to get into the team. Then when he did, we were like, oh, he's quite good. And then Newcastle took him back. We had players going out injured. The squad dynamic, the strength within the squad seemed to be very, very strong last year.
Oh, it was. The squad depth, unfortunately, wasn't big, but the character that we had in that was massive. And that's what got us, like you say, I've never been in a changing room where in two times during a season we had 10 first team players out injured. So then, and I'll be honest, that is what stopped us from getting automatic promotion. And I'll say that everyone will agree with that because of the players that got injured at the timings. Because you look at it was the worst timings during the season. It was over the Christmas period. So the games would come in really quickly. We lost main players out then. We then got them back. We then went on a run all the way into February. Obviously, losing Joe and Connor was massive for us. Obviously, we replaced Connor with Turnsey. So then we then got into a little bit of form. Our injured players came back, and then come February, we lost 10 players again, but no one's fault. They're just freak injuries that obviously Luke, we lost. I think that was probably the biggest one we lost at the timing of when we lost him. Especially he was finding his own. He was playing that centre mid role, stepped into that unbelievably for someone that not really played it, and to lose your captain at that time, we were, what were we, second or third, I think it was. We then that sort of stepped in. Luke got injured. Then 3 or 4 followed that in the week after that. We so yeah, it was massive to still be on, to still finish how we did. I'll be honest, I believed that we could do it, but whether or not we did do it was a completely different story. To then lose so many key players at such key points of the season was brilliant that we managed to get ourselves back into the fold. And obviously losing 7 or 8 games towards the end of the season, and we still managed to somehow sneak into the playoffs and stay there. I'll always remember we started Doncaster's run and we ended it, and there was always massive talks about, oh, they've done really well, which they did, fair credit to them, but everyone's writing us off. I said, well, hang on, we've lost 7 games and we've stayed in the playoffs. That's how well we had done. Yeah, okay, we weren't in good form, but even though we lost all those games, we didn't come out of the playoffs for 3 months, even after not winning a game.
Apart from obviously the second to last game, which we'll come on to, there was 2 moments that really stand out. The first one was Wimbledon away in the last minute, when it felt like the whole of the bench was celebrating in that corner. All the subs were
massively,
it was amazing. And then when I was walking out of the ground at Stockport away, I remember thinking we could actually do this. We could actually win the league. We looked that good.
We were that good. That's the thing. We were, and everyone was not inside. We always believed that we could finish as high as we wanted to. If we played the football that we knew we could play, we knew we could go and beat anyone in the league. So we weren't a problem as that. It was, like I said, the timing of the injuries after that game, probably a couple more games after that, our whole squad just got dismantled by injuries, and there was nothing we could do about it. So then we had to regroup again with the 5 or 6 games. No disrespect, we had scholars on the bench. So we're trying to bring players on that had never played in the Football League before, whereas we're playing against teams that have all they're bringing on players that have been 6, 7 years in the Football League. So you're like, wow, okay, this is where we can see, right, we need to dig in. We need to dig in together as a whole squad, we were rushing people back from injury just to try and fill a squad. People were playing through injuries just to be in there, because if we had lost any more, who knows what would have happened. So yeah, that was that Wimbledon, like you say, the Wimbledon one, we felt the decisions weren't going our way in that game, which was why the reaction was like it was at the end when Nev scored. and that was, what was that, 93rd, 94th minute or something like that. And
I mean, you had 3 or 4 more onto that.
Was it 97th? Was it?
Something
I knew
around
it was late. I knew I was just up front trying to win headers, and Luke kicked the ball up. Somehow I flicked it on to, I think it hit their player. Nev ran onto it and put it in the bottom corner with his weaker foot. So yeah, that was unbelievable. And it was also like the Accrington game in December with 3-3 when Nev scored one last minute out from an edge of the box. That was the team spirit that we had that year, last season, and it will, to come close to that, we should be in good stead this year with that team spirit, because it just, character wins you football games.
I'm going to come back to last season because there's a lot we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah.
But just whilst you were talking about injuries a couple of minutes ago, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what is causing all of these injuries? Because we're about a Shiloh Tracy injury from you having to go back up front like you're a teenager again.
It's just football. As brutal as it is like, unfortunately look at Kane. Kane's broke his 5th Met. You can't do anything about that. It just happens. Omar gets a knee in the back in pre-season. In the first 5 minutes he comes on for the game, and he gets 3 fractures in his back. That's why he was out for so long. He's then, because he's missed a whole pre-season, he's coming back in to the fold, and he feels a little bit tight in a calf. It's just because he's missed 4 weeks of pre-season, he's not up to that speed but that's the character that he wants to be involved. Maybe we should have held him back a little bit, and he wants to get involved. He felt fine, but obviously where we've had 6 to 8 weeks of pre-season, first 2 games of the season, he's missed that, but he wouldn't want to stay unfit for 6 to 8 weeks. So it's like they're injuries that you can't do anything about. It's unfortunately, it is football. Hamstrings go. Injury is a part and parcel. Touchwood. It is part and parcel of football. It's just how lucky you are with it. I mean, last year we were unlucky with it twice in key moments of the season, and at the moment we're a little bit unlucky with it at the moment as well. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks we may see some good news with boys coming back in. But they can't, just because we need them, we can't say. And that's what I think maybe they are realising, that we can't bring them back in even if they're saying that they want to be back in, if that makes sense. We can't just rush them, because then I'd rather lose them for another 2 weeks than say, let me play 75% fit, and then something happens and they go off for another 4-6 weeks. So I'd rather just say, stay off for another 2 weeks. I don't want to see you in a match shirt. I'll see you every day in your training, but you're not stepping on the pitch until you're ready, because I don't want to lose you again. It's too important.
I mean, injury last year, if you take the 2 Wrexham games, we played them at the end of September. If a goalkeeper decided to come out and claim a cross in the last minute, we'd have obviously won 3-2.
Or someone trapped their runner on the back post. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I still would have liked my keeper to claim that, but let's not get into it. We then played him towards the end of the season, decimated with injuries.
2 players, wasn't there?
Yeah, and
probably
you could see that
me and Rio and Nev maybe from that first game.
I don't think Nev would have started, because I think Courtney would have been up top.
Courtney
first time
started
round.
with Lonnie.
And Tracy. So if you look at the difference between the 11 we could put out that day where we could compete to what we could put out at the end of the season when we couldn't, and I mean, all of us were sort of saying it on the pod that we've got a good 11, probably got a good 14, 15. But if you look at Wrexham, you look at Stockport, you look at Mansfield with their budget there.
24, yeah, of course.
Steve Fletcher's coming off the bench. Like, that's the difference.
That's the difference in, like you say, that's the difference in size of football clubs' budgets and investors and stuff like that. And you just have to get on with it. You have to get on with how the cards are dealt. And I believe we did do that. No one moaned. We didn't moan that we had 10 players out. We just got on with it. We had probably players playing through little niggles because we didn't want to come out. Whether that was right, no one's ever going to say yes or no, because we're doing it because we wanted to play football, and we didn't have those players sitting waiting on the bench that had played 300, 400 games in their career so far. we were bringing players on that are maybe 3 or 4 games. So, and fair play to them when they did come on, they certainly gave it their best, and that's why some of them are still here.
How does it work, Mickey, in that situation where, let's say, you were playing with a broken toe? Is that
I was getting injections every game.
Your call though, or are the physios saying to the manager,
No,
you
that's my call. Yeah, that's my call.
Okay,
but I'm different. For me, I would touch. I keep touching wood in this thing. I've only had.
Don't say it.
No, yeah, all right. There was one that I missed 4 months, and that was that year, and I broke my leg in Newport, and I was out for 4 months, and that was I hated it. I'm the worst watcher in football because I'm still playing the game sitting in. I used to always watch it with the chairman at Newport when I was injured, and he said, "I'm glad you're fit now because I can't watch any more games with you." And I probably rushed myself back fit. Then I was out for 16 weeks and played a full 90 straight away without any other games because I don't like missing games of football. So for me, unless I have to, then I'll play for anything that I can. And probably because of the fact of how my career has gone, I don't take it, like I said, I don't take it for granted. If I'm 50%, 60% fit, I'll go out there and try and work my way to 100% fit whilst I'm on the pitch. Or you're never 100% fit, maybe 75, 80% fit. But like I said, with my toe last year, I think I played 3 months with Doc injecting it so I couldn't feel it just because I didn't want to miss a game. I don't like missing games of football. Salford away. Matt Smith landed on it and it snapped. And that was
a year
first
today,
game.
Year to the date, actually. Yeah.
Oh, was it? So yeah, that was the first, and I remember it. I felt it, and I thought the physio at half time. I said, "I think my foot's broke, but I'm not taking my boot off because if I take my boot off, I won't be able to get it back on." So I managed to get through the next half. A couple of paracetamols in, took it off, and it just went big. And I was like, "Right, okay." It was right on the top of the 5th met into the toe. And so thankfully it wasn't quite the 5th met. It was sort of bottom of the toe, top of the joint of it. And Doc was able to inject it. And that was he wouldn't normally, but because I was like, I can't kick a ball without it. So you're going to have to do it or I'm missing 6 weeks. So he said, right, okay. So we did it 3 times. He said, I'm not allowed to do any more. So I just had to get on with it after that. And that's why I missed the Crawley game. I say missed the start of it because we couldn't get someone to inject it. And I said to the gaffer, I said, just leave it with me because obviously I'm from down there. I'll find someone that can come and inject it. I rang my old friend I used to play cricket with, who's a physio at Sussex Cricket. I said, and his dad's a doctor. I said, I need you to find me someone that can inject it. And it wasn't until Friday, 11 o'clock, and our meetings are at 10 o'clock. So the gaffer, I always remember the gaffer. He always says, you hate me for that, don't you? I said, yeah, you killed my minutes because I would have had a perfect season. And he pulled me at 10 to 10 or something like that. He said, Mick, have you found anyone to do it yet? I said, yeah, I'm waiting to hear. I said, well, I'm going to have to make a decision. Can you play? I said, I probably can, but I may have to come off, depending on what it would be like. I don't know. And he said, I can't take that risk because if you come off, it changes too many things in the shape. The whole shape would have to change. The 2 players would change position. I was like, right, okay. So I was sitting there raging. I was like, I'm going to find someone to do it. I would have went back home to the doctor to get it done in the morning. And then we came out of the meeting. I had a phone call from my friend and said, we found someone, they're going to do it. Just need to arrange it with the doc. I went and told the gaffer and he's like, too late now. I was like, fine, that's fine. I understood it because it would, like I said, if I couldn't do it, it would have made too many changes if I would have had to come off after, say, 10 minutes or 60 minutes. So yeah, I'll always remember that one, and he won't let me. I won't let him live him down either, because I said when I say I'm going to do something, don't worry, I'll get it done, and he knows that with me now. So yeah, that was a little bit. That, like I said, that's something that I couldn't help. Couldn't help Matt Smith landing on my foot. It's just we've just been unlucky on some of the injuries we have. There's just nothing you can do. Some people are just too quick. That's why hamstrings go. It's one of them ones you can't do anything about. Little injuries. People, I know people say, why do people keep getting injured? Is it their age? I was like, no, it's not that. It's just you can't do anything about it. Kane can't help the fact that he's broken his foot at 32. It just happens. It's not because he's 32. So it's little things like that. It's just you can't, and people see it, people hear it. It's like sometimes you can't help being injured. It's just they don't need to be reminded that they've been injured a couple of times in the season. It's just once one injury happens, maybe they've got to take a little bit longer to get back fit and need to put that in their head instead of I've missed too long, I want to get back quicker. So it's one of them ones.
Mickey, I know my answer to this if I was to ask myself. Talking about last season, and we'll ignore Doncaster in the playoffs for now, just talk about the regular season. Where do you think the season hit its highest point last year? Because if you look back at the results, I think most of the answers would be away games. Was there a specific away game or home game where you thought this is a good result? We've played really well here.
Obviously, we mentioned the Stockport game earlier. That was quite big. Obviously, I think they were top at the time, going there and winning quite convincingly. I think it was Turnsy's first game as well. So building a new partnership with him, that was quite big. The Notts County away one as well. I think that was quite big because they were on the back of a good run. So it's just whenever it seemed to be whenever we come against someone that's on a good run and we need to step up a little bit. I think that's every team though. You always if there's someone's above you and you're thinking, we can get close to them or we can overtake them. People somehow step up and find that little bit extra. The Sutton at home game.
Just picking games you scored. Just picking games you scored in.
Yeah,
Notts County, Stockport.
Notts County, yeah. No, I think a big one was Sutton at home. We were in a little bit of a bad bit of form, and we beat Sutton 1-0, and it was a cold Tuesday. I think it was my birthday that day, or around it, and it was a cold Tuesday night at home, and we managed to win 1-0, and I think that just gave a little bit of confidence. I think we still had not a weakened team, but it wasn't our full strength team because of the injuries, and that gave a little bit of confidence to the boys that, hang on, we are still good enough to be in and around it. I know Sutton weren't that up and around it, but they're a hard team to beat because of the way they play. And they're all 6'5". We had boys marking people at set pieces that are 5'7", 5'8", and they're marking 6'2" boys. You're thinking, just do your best, lads. We got to deal with, that's the hand we've been dealt. We have to deal with it. And going in, winning that 1-0 was big for the confidence and that. And like I said, at that point, I think we were still maybe, did we creep back into the top three, or we were in the top three at that point? So for us to then stay in it or stay in and around it, just to give a little bit of confidence. And obviously a few games after that, that's when we started losing a few more games. And that win was pretty crucial, I think.
Yeah, I think they had a new manager and they'd sort of just started to pick up some results.
Yeah.
It was, you might have picked it out as one of like a big result for you as a player, but watching that, I think that was the 46th of 46 games that I enjoyed last year. It was an awful game to watch as a fan.
Oh, it was a terrible game to play in. It was one of them ones. We just need to get in and out and try and pick up 3 points. Pick up, because Courtney got injured. I think it was in 10
seconds in. Yeah, he did it. He
landed
on his shoulder.
He dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah,
and got knocked out at the same time. So it's another injury that you can't do anything about. So it's like everything just wasn't. I remember Nev was getting rested for that game because he was playing through niggles because Courtney wasn't fit. So then Courtney came back in. The gaffer pulls him on the Monday saying, we're going to give you a little rest because we need you for longer. And you're going to your data's starting to drop a little bit. He had a 10-second rest. So and we always remember that one. And so then from that, he then came back in. And it's just, I think that was a big win for us it turned out a big win because we managed to stay in the playoffs right at the end. And those 3 points helped that. And also Barrow away. Barrow away was a big one.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Barrow
what do you do as a player when, you must sense it and you must feel it? You've just said as much, really. So it's a cold night or it's a cold Saturday afternoon and the ground's a bit flat, the atmosphere's a bit flat. There's about 4 people in the away end. And it's not a great game to be watching and it's not a great game to play. And what do you do as a player? How do you lift each other? How can you turn that into, let's just get in and out?
It just happens. You just try and, because obviously you try and create an atmosphere for then the fans to jump on with, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I think I don't think the attendance was that high because we were going through a little bit of a bad form, which is fair enough. But we then have to try and create an atmosphere for the people that are there cheering us on. And to be fair, a lot of the games the fans kept us going. And I'll always say that if we're lacking a little bit of not because of the players we've got a little bit of flair, we just need that little bit of lift, a little lift from the crowd. Then if it's from a tackle, if it's from a chance or something like that, it just gives then the lads then realise, oh, they're still with us, the sort of thing. If we're not playing our usual football because we can't, because the other team aren't allowing us to do that, and we're going a little bit long maybe, and the crowd's getting a little bit on us a little bit, and it's like, hang on, we're trying to find a way, to get 3 points. Let us find that way. And it might not be pretty, but at that stage of the season, it's like football goes out the window. It's the business end of the season. You just got to try and pick up as many points as you can.
Probably a bit of a naive question, but do the fans make that much difference? Because like we always think we are, and then there's other side of it where you think the game's going on, you don't even hear what we're shouting and singing. Do we make that much of a difference?
You do still hear it. I hear everything, and sometimes I react to everything for the rest of the lads. There was a moment on Saturday, I can't remember what it was, and there was a little bit of a grunt from the crowd, and you'll see my finger starts waggling, and I'm like, we don't need that. I think we were winning at the time as well. And so that isn't going to help, because some of the boys who haven't been around that long, they could go into a little shell, and we don't need that. That isn't helping anyone. And so I'll always try and put into perspective what they are trying to say in for the lads as well, because I've been in around the block many times. I've had many fans shout at me, many fans be with me. So I'm like, just remember that they're trying to do the best that they can. And yes, and you'll be surprised how much of a difference it does make, especially and not just Crewe fans, any fans, this Newport fans, it's Shrewsbury fans, when they are with it, it makes a big difference because it's such a young group and an inexperienced group. And if they hear things that maybe they don't like, and it's like, well, how do I react to that? How do I get them back on side with me? Because some people just go straight over the edge. For me, yeah, I'll take notice of it, but it doesn't affect me, because I know 2 weeks' time, the next time we're winning game of football, it's completely different. So it's like, hang on a minute, like let's just put it all into perspective and try and help everyone through the same situation, because we all want the same thing at the end of the day. We want to win games of football, and then sometimes it may not be pretty, which the crowd don't like, but I'd rather that and take the 3 points than play really well and don't win, if that makes sense. But as long as the crowd's with us, it doesn't have to be 90 minutes, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be unbelievable for 90 minutes. So the little bits that are needed just to keep the lads going. If the crowd see that we're flat on the team, they give us a little lift. It may give us that lift for 10, 15 minutes, and that might be enough to go and get the goal that we need. So that I think crowds make massive difference. And more so, even if it's not for us, for the other team. I'll always remember the first game of last season, Mansfield. We were warming up in the corner. I felt we were away, because they were making so much noise. And like any home ground, the home fans don't come into the ground really till about 20 to 3, 10 to 3. Because then when you come back out, they're all there. The noise is being massive. But all the Mansfield crowd were all there. That whole stand was full at 2:15. And they were making noise when they were giving everyone abuse. It's funny. It just goes over my head. The lads are laughing their heads off, but that's the difference it can make. Some lads might go under there because they're thinking, hang on, they're getting on me now. What can I do? Because they're so young, because they're not experienced from it. So they just need, I'd say, like you say, the crowd for me makes a massive difference.
Mickey, I'm going to take us on to the playoff games against Doncaster. We'll skip over the home game, if you don't mind, and go straight to the away game.
Why is that? It wasn't a good game, that one.
No.
But like I say, that was all because of our fault. It was our own fault, our mistakes that led to their goals.
Well, we go to the away game, 2-0 down. They're on this stupid run of, 11, 12 wins in a row. We are on not the opposite, but as close to being the opposite as that as a playoff team as possible to have. What's the feeling on the coach over? Because, I mean, I watched it. I feel like I watched it more in a sense of duty rather than a sense of belief. I'd seen, enough of the end of the season to think,
yeah,
it's a playoff game. Of course, I'm going to watch it. It's the Alex. Of course, I'm going to watch it. But I don't really think that we're going to do anything.
We're going to do it. And look, I'll be honest, I probably think a lot of people thought exactly the same thing. But because of how the season went and what we'd been through, we never gave up. If the first thing that was said when we walked in the changing room after the first leg was, lads, it's 2-0. We've come back from 2-0 before. We've come back and won games 2-0 in 45 minutes. And I said it in the interview after the game to the radio. I said, we've come back and won 3-2 in 45 minutes. So we've got 90 minutes to go here now. And it just makes it a little bit easier. We've got a longer period. Obviously, we probably didn't plan on bringing it back to 2-1 and 2-2 so soon. But we backed ourselves. Obviously, we had a couple more back from injury for that game. In hindsight, probably weren't fit enough to be there, but adrenaline got them through things. So we backed ourselves and we said, we're not making the numbers. We go and lose 2-3-0. Everyone's going to say, we knew that was going to happen. It's been an okay season. It's been a good season. We got where we were. You think that 2 months before that, people wrote us off. So we've got nothing to lose. They had everything to lose, but being 2-0 up. And from my own experience, I was 2-0 up at Newport against Forest Green. And it went to we scored 119th minute winner to make it 4-3. So it's like, so that's where my experience can help the team there. So look, I've been 2-0 up before and Forest Green scored 2 early goals. And then it's 0-0 because the away goals don't count.
I think it's something that Mark was actually on the podcast after that game and mentioned the fact that when you scored the first goal, it wasn't a celebration. It was get the ball. Come on, lads. We're 2-1 down.
It was. That's what I mean. We're 2-1 down. We go again.
You watched it back? That's what you were shouting to whoever it was that was in the net. Get the ball. You weren't celebrating.
I can't remember. I think it was Longy maybe went and got the ball. It was just one of them ones. And mainly because of my mistake that I made in the first game, I owed it to the lads. I owed it to the fans to at least get us back in the game at some point.
Well, I remember making I mean, you can talk us through it, but it looked from that other end like there was nobody else was ever going to win that ball when it came in for that first goal. It's like you were on springs. You got up. Everybody that was in your way, you were like a bowling ball through skittles. You were scoring that goal and no one was going to stop you.
Yeah, we worked on that corner leading into the game because we thought their back zone area was a weakness for them. And as soon as the ball was in the air, and to be fair, CT probably made the best block he'd made all season, just gave me an extra yard to get away from, I think it was Anderson. And when that ball was in the air, I knew I'm making contact with it. Whether or not it goes in, I don't know, but I'm making contact with it. And normally, if I make good contact, it goes in. So as soon as I saw it, beat the keeper and beat the lad's knee on the line, we said, right, let's go. We're back in the game. We now only need 1 goal in 90 minutes to bring it level. And then obviously 5 minutes later, maybe something like that, we managed to get back in, and then it's 0-0. And then it was like, right, okay, now relax, settle down. Just we're back where we want to be, but don't come off it too much because that's when they can be dangerous. And we had a couple of other chances. They had chances and stuff like that. And yeah, and then the rest is history, really, wasn't it, for that night?
At 2-1 then, because obviously the noise in the away end is immense, but could you tell that from being on the pitch with their players, could you tell you'd rattled them?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
And mainly rattling the fans. I said it leading into the game. I said it after the game to one of the interviews that I said those fans, they're not used to conceding goals, because 10 games ago, 3/4 of that stadium wasn't there. So they're only there because of the way they were in. And obviously we've got Tony coming up, and they hate me anyway. So some of the fans have already started getting on me because of what happened in the playoffs. So they weren't there for those 9 games leading up to it. So they didn't know how to react to us scoring so early once, let alone 2. So they went quiet. And as soon as they went quiet, their players were like, "Oh, we've messed up here."
Do you know what they were doing, Mickey? They were frantically on Booking.com seeing if they could get a refund on their hotels they booked in London. That was the problem they had.
On their train tickets.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the video. There's a video.
I saw a couple. There's a few going around where they
lads saying, we booked it. There's no chance these guys are coming back. We're going to go to Wembley.
But that's what I mean. That just fuels the fire for us as a team, because, like I said, we'd lost 7 out of 10 games, and they had to win 10 out of 10 to get in the playoffs. We lost 7, and we finished 1 point below them. So it's like give us a little bit of credit where it's due. Because if we had won 2 of those 7 games, we were in the top 3. So they need, and that's what fans, that's probably what their, say, out and out fans, the Donny out and out fans that are there week in, week out, none of them were saying that. It's all of the fans that jumped on the bandwagon because they were doing well, because they were winning, they were scoring goals, they were all over the news on this big run that they were on. And because of that it obviously didn't work out for them. And we managed to sneak it on the penalty shootout.
Can we talk about the penalties? Or
of course, yeah.
Talk about 4 out of 5 of them. I think that's one we probably want to avoid. Yeah.
So, could I give you my opinion, Mickey? I'm not really a superstitious person, but I mean, you must know the way Crewe fans have taken to you as a person and a player. As you were walking up, I mean, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning where I was, and I was talking to Noah, but I was like, oh God, he's going to miss, and it's going to be the reason we don't go to Wembley after being the hero so often during the season. And then, ultimately, it's sort of what happened, but not quite. But I don't know. I don't really believe in fate or anything like that, but I had this premonition that you were going to miss, and then I thought it was all my fault when you did.
Stu, I had that. I didn't have a premonition. I was down the front because I needed to nip to the lavatory at full time of extra time, and I thought I'm just going to stay at the front just in case they win the toss, and then I'll be right in front of where the penalties are. When you went and got the ball, you didn't look at anything but the ball between the time you picked it up and the time you took your penalty, and I wanted to just scream, "Please look at the goalkeeper." You were like in this zone, and I don't know how to explain it. And I don't think you'd have known you were doing it, but you honestly pick the ball up and you're just looking intently at the ball. You put the ball on the spot, you walk back the whole time staring. Not once did you look up and look at the goalkeeper.
No,
and I was like, he's gonna go. I was like, I think he's gonna go there. And I'm not a professional goalkeeper, so this doesn't bode well. And then you open your body up and sort of the keeper to save it.
Yeah, no, I always back myself to go. Well, I always go that way. I've had to change. I used to be penalty taker at Newport when I first signed there. Randomly, I got put on them. I scored 4 out of 5, 4 out of 4, and then my manager was like, "You got to change because people are starting to know." And I was like, "I don't like changing. Don't like change. I just back myself to go the same way. And if I put it where I want to put it, it goes in. Keeper's not getting there. So I will, and I'll always practice. I'll tell the keeper, I am going this way. You dive, because I need to practice hitting the side netting. And it's like I say, I will never look at the keeper, because I feel like if I take my eye off anything, that's when I could doubt myself. I need to go a different way now because he knows where I'm going. So for me, I was like, I have to take a penalty with the squad that we have. But I probably shouldn't have taken, with all honesty, I probably shouldn't have taken a penalty, because we probably have better players on the pitch that are, well, they're definitely better technically than me on certain aspects of the football game. But because I am that strict of which way I will go, keepers will always know which way I'm going. But in the moment, I was like, I'm taking a penalty, give me the ball, I'll take responsibility Whether I score, whether I miss, that's on me. As captain, as an experienced pro, I don't want that being on a 19-year-old that's not been in this position before. So I will take that. Obviously, I back myself to score. Terrible penalty. Was never going to go in after rewatching it about 100 times. Keeper's known exactly which way I was going. Like I say, if I looked up, I probably see he's gone 20 minutes early. I could have rolled it the other side and it goes in. So I've had to learn from that. And look, if I have to take another penalty, we'll see what happens. I'll just have to practice going different ways and see what happens. But for them to then get me out of the shit, that was massive. Max was unbelievable. Bless him, he didn't even know that he'd saved the winning penalty, which was the best moment of the game for me. And he said, "Don't worry, I've got you." And to be fair, he did.
When you've played all the games that you have and been through everything that you have, are the nerves when you're walking up to take that penalty? Have you got jelly legs? Is your stomach going?
Not really.
No.
I'll always back myself whether I should have been taking a penalty or not. I took one in the last playoff semi-final I was in with Newport, scored, went the same way, scored. That game, the keeper went the other way. It was just this one that he didn't. And so if I'm needed to take a penalty, I'm always there to take a penalty. Nowadays, I'll take one if I'm needed. Let them go and take a penalty. And if I need to take one, I'll take one and I'll put it, hopefully score the next one. But for them to, like you say, how the season went for me personally, that would have been a killer for it to end like that. And I'll always remember my boys, Alfie, I think it was at the time, was crying his eyes out. And he is invested in football. He was crying his eyes out when I missed. And someone just grabbed him and said, "Don't worry, we're still going to win. And it's not your dad's fault. Even if we don't, it's not his fault." And that will always live with me because of the fact that they didn't need to do that. They could have been angry that I've just missed a penalty, but they've taken aside that and they've concentrated on my little boy there. That was massive.
I'd like to say that's the norm at Crewe. I mean, I don't know if it is, but that's how I feel. We are slightly different.
I think they just took out the emotions for it because it will live more for him that I've missed the penalty that could have taken us to Wembley. And they've set aside that because they would see he was crying his eyes out. Theo, I think, was crying as well. And fucking hell, I had a tear in my eye. I've got one in my eye now just thinking about it. So then for me that's probably the connection that I build with the fans throughout the season. That's probably why they then did that. So that's the effort I put in on the pitch, off the pitch, allowed them to just put football aside for a minute and think about Mickey as the person, because they don't need to know that he knows he's hurting inside if that conceded. I'm not talking to anyone for about a month. So the family would have not heard from me. I would have just sat quiet, tried to sit quiet. I wouldn't have been able to because them two would have been all over me. But I would have just not wanted to do anything for ages. But so they put that aside just to make sure they were okay, the boys were okay. And for me, that meant everything for me when I found that out.
I think, and we'll move on from this, in a minute, but I think that comes from the relationship that you've built up with our fan base in such a short time. That's the reward for everything that we see you putting in. I think that's where that comes from. Can I talk about the after game scenes, as I believe the youngsters of today talk about on the pitch?
Oh,
it
was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Was.
I missed half of it. I got pulled out for an interview and I was raging. So I saw some of it. I spent half the time looking for Alfie because he went off, just ran onto the pitch. I think Ryan Cooney's girlfriend grabbed him and just held him because obviously all the fans came on. I had Theo on my shoulders, jumping in with all the fans, and it brought me back to when we stayed up on the last day of the season in Newport, where we had the pitch invasion. Those two moments, it's what football's all about. It's why you try and involve the crowd in everything that a football club tries to do, because it's moments like that you have to experience together. And bringing them all on the pitch, well, not bringing them onto the pitch, they just ran onto the pitch, but to be able to experience it with full of all the players that have just gone through 120 minutes of carnage, as it was, to then enjoy it with them, singing all the songs, jumping all about, having pictures with. It just was an amazing experience for that to happen. And then, like I said, I then got rushed off for an interview, and I missed the rest of it. I missed all of it in the changing rooms, and apparently that was unbelievable. I came into the end of it, and but it's moments like that will live in memories of fans and players for the rest of their careers, for the rest of their lives, really, because they'll always go back to, we were down and out, we got back in, we won the penalty shootout, the crowd celebrated with us, all on the pitch for about half an hour, 40 minutes. And it's just moments like that will always, you have to cherish, because it doesn't happen to everyone. And for me, I'll always remember stuff like that, because I never thought I'd be playing football.
In a few weeks' time, if you want to experience it again, there's a Monday night game on Sky about 8:00 in Burton.
Well, and everyone's going to yell at that Monday night game.
Yeah, you'll never have to buy a drink in Crewe again if you win that.
Well, we'll be doing everything we can to. Let's get to that one first.
We are going to have to talk about Wembley, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine.
No, is that just a no, a blanket no?
I hate it. I hate the place. I love it, but I hate it at the same time.
Well, so my first question, I mean, I'm aware we've been on with you almost an hour and 3/4 already, and we've just got to Wembley. So I'll try and make this quick, because
no, that's right. There's no right. There's no rush. Honestly, the boys are fine downstairs. I think they're going to stay up and watch the Newport game tonight anyway. So,
have you processed it, and how long does it take you as a club, the players, Lee Bell, or everyone, to process it, and how difficult is it to bring or to not bring that into this season?
if I'm honest, I processed it because of the manner of the defeat. I processed it within probably a week, because I'd been and done it. I'd lost twice before. The manner of those defeats were a lot worse in that one. The last one, we should, against Tranmere, the first one, we should have had a penalty. They scored we had a red card. They scored in the 118th minute. The Morecambe game, we should have had a penalty. They got a penalty that wasn't a penalty. So it was more like we felt hard done by, and they scored in the 116th minute or something like that. So we didn't have any chance to get back. Whereas in this one, the manner of it, we conceded goals that in a way we could have prevented in a different way. So it was like, and we had the chances to get back into the game. So yes, it hurt just as much as the other two, because you're going to Wembley in 3 playoff finals and I've still not celebrated a goal. I've still not celebrated a win. But it was easier to get over that because of the fact it's happened to me before. And I tried to make sure it wouldn't happen to the lads. So for me, I was trying to put my own experiences aside to make sure this doesn't hurt them and go into the next season. So after the game, I was going around everyone, trying to pick them all up individually, because that's just me. I'm trying to forget about me, put that lot first, get them back up and think, don't let this be the only thing you remember. Think about getting here. Think about playing here. You need to remember that going into next year. Think about how you're feeling now. You don't want to feel like that again. Use that to spur you on for this season coming. And if I had everyone in a circle, I would have said it all in one. But I was going around 15, 20 different people trying to say the same thing, because I'd been there and done it. It hurts. I don't want you to feel how I'm feeling. So let me just try and pick you up as quickly as I can. Yeah, you're going to hurt. It's going to hurt because we've just missed a chance to get a promotion medal, missed a chance for 24,000 fans to be singing. They've now gone from up there down to here in 90 minutes because the manner of the defeat it was. They didn't cheat. The refs didn't cheat, didn't make any bad decisions. Whereas in my previous ones, they did not cheat, but they just made bad decisions. But so it was a little bit easier to get over, but it still hurt just as much. And like I said, I hate the place.
Is run out of steam a bit too lazy and easy to say, or is that actually what happened?
You could say that. I think as maybe the occasion maybe got the better of people's mindsets. They were maybe more nervous on that day than they were 48 other games, maybe. So it's massive. You're playing at the home of football. You got a chance to get promoted for your football club for your career. The first time any of those boys have ever been in and around, not a successful season, but a chance to be successful. You look at the rest of the squad at the time, none of them have really been in and around that, because they've come up through the youth team where the first team weren't really succeeding at the time. They were just playing in League One. They weren't succeeding in League One. So the success there was there for them. Maybe it got to them, and it would do. A lot of people not freeze, but they don't play to the same standard because the occasions there. They've got 50,000 fans there. So they're just not used to it. And that could have been it. Maybe because we were going the last 12 games of the season, I think 90% of the team played every single minute of the game. So maybe you did run and because of how much the semi-finals maybe took out of players. It's just the way it is. You just had to try and bounce back as to be ready for it, and a mixture of emotions, maybe trying too hard. And it's one of them ones. It happens. It's like I said, I'm unfortunately I'm experienced at losing at Wembley, and so I just have to try and put that to one side to make sure the other lads are okay.
I'll say one thing: Crawley were very good on the day.
They were very good on the day as well. Obviously, the better, probably, let's be honest, the better team won on the day. And
I can't believe the way they played, though, because when we played them at Gresty Road in February, it was like 11 men behind the ball. The keeper got an injury after 7 minutes, and they were getting some tactical advice behind. I was like, what on earth happened in the past 3 months?
Maybe we changed a little bit. We obviously played a different formation in the final than we had done previously against them. So maybe that was a thing, because of the formation worked so well in the semi-final. So we wanted to go again and play with that freedom and play with that sort of pace that we had. Maybe another day we change formation. Me and the gaffer, we always talk about it. If it had played out a different way, what would we do differently? And maybe that's one of them. But who knows? Everything happens for a reason, I say. So maybe that was just one of them. And like you said, they played really well on the day. They took the goals very well, and we just didn't create enough. I think we had one. I think I had a half chance just before they scored their first one, and from a free kick that I think if I was a half an inch taller, I would have got my head on at the front post. And that was probably, apart from Longy's chance, that was probably the only chances that we had.
You had one in the second half, if I remember, when I think Courtney got in the way of one when a cross came in towards the end. But I can't remember if that was at 1 or 1. I don't know if that was 2-0. Was it 2-0 at the time?
At that point. Yeah, I was up front at that point. So that was a half a chance again where I've actually tried to head it back across. It's just come off the wrong side of the head because it's probably trying too hard to try and get ourselves back into the game. And so it's just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be that year. But we can't let that define how the season went. I think we did well to be there anyway, and the spirit that got us there, we just had to try and use that to our advantage to take that into this year. Obviously, we've lost a few, we've gained a few, and at the moment, the team spirit's still there.
I'm going to move on to this season, Mickey. I'm going to throw in a few sort of miscellaneous questions. Some are more serious than others. I just need a quick answer to these. Yep. So firstly, long throws. Do you wish that you were on the end of your own long throws? Because
I'd love it. Do. I'd love to. I'd love to be able to throw it high enough so I can run in and get, or be quick enough to throw it and then run in and head it. But I would love to be able to be on my own long throw. Because then I know where it's going.
Next one. Captain. I read somewhere at the start of this year that you'd not been made like club captain before, like you've been captains of teams before, but to actually have the captaincy this year is the first time. That seems like an oversight to me.
No, yeah, I've never been. I've been vice captain on 2 occasions. I got it my last season at Newport, I was vice captain. The captain left in the Jan, so I just overtook it, leading into the last 6 months of the season. But I've never been named club captain before, so yeah, that was a real honour for me.
Next international career, 5 England C caps, and I believe Cyprus were sort of looking at you at one stage in 2014, but nothing really happened.
Yeah, they had to. 5 England C caps, which was really enjoyable tours that I did, and some big names came through that as well. So yeah, I'd always enjoy those ones. I had trips to Bermuda, which was brilliant. That was my first tour that I went with them. We travelled Slovenia and Slovakia, Czech Republic and stuff. So yeah, the experience that I made from those were brilliant. Cyprus, they did inquire when I was at Shrewsbury. The comment of national service was mentioned, which kind of put me off a little bit, and because that wasn't what I was interested in. And if I pushed it, I probably could have got it, because I just would have had to get a Cypriot passport, which I could have got. But when they mentioned that, I was like, no, that's not for me, because not that I know, but family members have been sort of stopped at Cypriot airports and tried to be kept from coming back to the UK. So I was like, yeah, that's not for me. That I just want to enjoy my football here. So I kind of put a stop to that one before it even got going. But it would have been interesting if I took the chance for that. That would have been quite nice.
You could have been lining up against Dave Artell again.
I know, yeah, that would have been.
So the next one, and it leads us into this season, the tackle on Courtney at Newport, best tackle of your career?
Well, yeah, that stop to goal, probably, yeah. That stop to goal, it probably would have been, yeah. I've probably made a few good tackles in my career, I would have thought. No, I think he was just shocked that I managed to get back. To be fair, I was quite surprised. I knew I had to time it perfectly. I'm just glad Phil didn't put his hands up and try and grab it, which he did to start with. Just quickly pulled it down when I shouted no, thinking we'll give away a goal, don't get sent off, because that would have been terrible. But then when I just thought, well, I've got to, if I can get there, I can get there. I'll try and tackle him. If I get it wrong, then I'm getting sent off. If I get it right, then it's perfect. I think the ball just sat up that extra second for me to be able to get my foot round. So yeah, that was quite nice. But after the game, he did. I saw him on the Sunday, and he said, "How the hell have you managed to do well? Not in those words. How did you manage to get back in that?" I said, "I have no idea. It was just perfect." I think he said, "I just couldn't get it down." I was like, "Yeah, perfect for me." He gave me that opportunity.
All right, we'll go on to this season then. I am conscious of time. Like I say, it's been almost 2 hours now, Mickey. Obviously, the season didn't start the way you guys wanted it, didn't start the way we wanted it as fans. But I think coming back from that Chesterfield game, there's been five wins, a draw, and a defeat in the next 7. We are talking 2 days after beating top of the table Gillingham, just before our old friends Doncaster away on Saturday. Spirit must be pretty good. What's the thoughts on the season?
Yeah, I think, like you said, obviously it wasn't ideal, that the Chesterfield game, but I think 2 games in, we had a lot of changes in the summer. We brought a lot of new players in. For me, I think a lot of people were probably panicking a little bit, but if that game was 2-0 and we go a 1-0 loss and a 2-0 loss, the reaction's probably not the same, if that makes sense. So I think just because of the scoreline and the manner of the goals, which is fair, I was raging after the game, but then when I actually watched the game back, apart from one goal, their third or fourth one, they're all our mistakes. The first one was a fluke. He hit one from 35 yards in the first 10 seconds. So that just sets us, oh, here we go. The second one, free header. Third one, I think it was the third one, was the only good move that they actually played football with. Fourth one, open header. We should have done better. Fifth one, I slipped in the box. So when we actually, at 1-0, we created chances. At 2-0, we created chances. At 3-0, we created chances. At 4, we kind of, I think confidence maybe just went in the lads. And that was then down to us to try and get it back. So yes, I think it's happened for a blessing maybe. It made everyone regroup and say, oh lads, let's not Let's not do that again. That was tough. Tough for players, tough for fans to watch, tough for players to be involved in. I've been involved in worse. I've lost 6-0 at home before. So I was like, lads, it can get worse. Let's not make it worse, but it can get worse. I've lost 6-0. Yeovil got relegated that year, and that's when we made the playoffs. So I was like, if we watched it back, or I watched it back on the Sunday, and then we watched it back in the team meeting on the Monday, we actually didn't play in key moments of the game. We actually played good football, but we just didn't take our chances. So it was like, we'll take that aside. The 4 goals we should do better on. But then since then, I think the reaction of players, staff, fans have been brilliant. And it's just like, that's what we can do when we play from our shape. We press from our shape. We play to the standard that we know we can do. And it's just about taking chances. A lot of the time last year and a lot of the time this year, if our final pass or our final end product has been a bit better, we score a goal. And it just recently that's been better. So we just need to find a little bit of consistency with that. And that's what the good teams do. They find that consistency game after game after game. And that's what we had a lot last season. So we just have to try and bring that back in this season.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, Mickey, if you don't mind doing a little bit of word association. So I'm going to go through the defenders you've played with at the club, and I want 1 or 2 words about each person. So if you're ready, we will start with Conor O'Riordan.
Big friendly giant, but very good at football.
Ed Turns.
Turnsy. Committed.
Luke Offord.
Leader.
Rio Adebisi.
Player.
Zach
Good friend.
Williams.
Zach Williams. Same. When he's on it, he's one of the best defenders that I've played with.
Ryan Cooney.
Same. When he's on it, when he gets a lot of stick, but he doesn't let that hit him, and his confidence is 100%. Whether that's him having a good game, whether that's having a rough game, but he'll always committed. His commitment to the game is brilliant.
Lewis Billington.
Potential.
Okay, that's a good word. It might
Good potential.
The rest of them. Jamie Knight Labelle.
Potential. Just gone away. He deserves his chance in the Canadian first team. He's like I said with Billow, the potential is there for them to have a very successful career, and the ability is there as well.
James Connolly.
I've not played much with him. Commitment as well. He will throw himself into any tackle.
The last one I've got is someone who I think the last interaction I saw between the two of you was you giving him a bollocking for Newport's second goal. Max Conway.
I'm trying to remember it now. Oh yeah, he lost the header. Yeah, he lost the header.
Yeah, the guy was about twice the size of him, and the first
he was. Yeah, Bakes. I played with
him.
Bakes as well. Yeah, commitment as well. Like he's still learning as well. He's come from Bolton. He's not come in thinking I've been a league above. He's come in and joined straight in. His application to work ratio is unbelievable.
Thank you very much. I've got a game for you as well, Mickey. Now, this is a game you don't expect to play with professional defenders. I'll explain what I mean by that. It is, did you score more goals or get more yellow cards at the different clubs? I think most defenders, the answer would be yellow cards every single time. It's not quite the case for you. Alex and Mark, you're free to join in as well, but I can't imagine you know too much about Mickey's time at Eastborough or Kidderminster or anything like that. So, Mickey, did you score more goals or get more yellows at Eastbourne?
At Eastbourne, it'll be yellows probably because I didn't score a goal.
That is correct. According to my stats, it was none and one.
Yeah.
Kidderminster in 3 years?
Probably more yellows because I think I only scored 3 or 4. Two
in the league. I've got 2 in the league and 5.
I knew it would be. Yeah, I was going to say because I got a suspension, so I know I got 5 yellows at some point.
Your time at Shrewsbury?
scored 3 goals at Shrewsbury.
That is correct.
Probably more goals.
Yeah, 3 and 2.
I was going to
2
say,
yellow
yeah, I was
cards
going to say,
the entire time.
I don't really get booked that much. So,
Cambridge?
Seasons. Cambridge, probably yellows. Didn't score.
Yeah.
I don't think I scored yet.
No goal at Cambridge. 1 yellow in your loan there. Newport.
Newport would have been goals, I'd say. I scored 26 goals or something like that.
You did score 26. You also got 39 yellows in your
Did
time.
I? Oh, yeah, it was across 6 years, wasn't it? Yeah,
and
that's
your
fair.
only red card. The numbers between the yellows and reds at Newport is significantly more than the rest of the clubs. I'm not saying that Newport are an agricultural team, but the numbers don't lie.
The red card at Newport was never a red card either. It was against Barrow away. We had Bobby Matt. I always remember was it Bobby Madley? No, it was an ex-Premier League referee, and he was big time. And he booked me for a tackle that was never a yellow card. And then it was a sloppy second yellow card. So yeah, I remember that. I think it's Touchwood, my only red card of my career.
It is the only one I know of.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know more than me, but it's the only one I've got in front of me. Crewe to finish off.
Got 11 goals. There's no way.
I've not got
chance.
11 yellows. Goals.
Yeah, 11 goals, 8 yellows at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not on 11 yellows yet.
Yeah. So, like I say, I don't think there's many professional defenders you can play that game with and have the answer goals in any, but for 2 of your clubs, you can say more goals than yellows.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my goal ratio on about, what is it now, 40 something, I think. So I'm happy with that.
My last question, long-term goals. You signed a new deal last season. I believe it runs out this summer. How long do you want to play for? And is the ability of former Crewe players taking on a coaching role within the club something that you know of and something you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely. I've always said I'd like to try and play as long as I can. As long as I feel like I'm enjoying it still, then I'd like to carry on playing. And yeah, I would like to, if I can, stay in football. I'm doing my coaching badges at the moment, currently doing my A license. So yeah, I'd like to. I'm actually starting to do a little bit with the academy. So that's helping me through my A license. So yeah, if I can, then that'll be something long term that may be in the pipeline. We'll have to wait and see.
Manager one day?
Yeah, I'd like to be if I can. I'd like to be. That was the plan for Newport. I wanted to retire in 3 or 4 years down at Newport if I wasn't leaving, because at the time of that, I wasn't planning on leaving Newport, and then maybe take a job up there, whether that's behind the scenes in it or out on the dugout. But that was why that was important, that maybe Crewe was the next step for me to do when I was talking to different clubs, because I could see that pathway as well, talking to the gaffer and stuff. I could feel myself. It was like a family club as well. So then that allowed me to think, right, okay, yeah, I can just move it 170 miles. I can finish my career somewhere here, and then maybe look into the future there as well. So look, I still, hopefully, touch wood, I've got a lot of games left in me. But yeah, and then that I'll do my badges, do my A license, and just let it be in the background for when I need it.
I'm going to ask because people will scream if I don't. It is this summer, isn't it?
I've got a year with an option this year. So so yeah, who knows? They took the last option in February, so we'll have to wait and see.
Is that it's the club's option, not yours?
It is the club's option, yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah, you don't get many contracts with players' options.
2 more years.
Has it been mentioned recently, or has it been brought?
As much as I love him, it's October. I mean, he's 34. He's not getting any younger. Do you know what I mean? It's not counting our chickens here.
No,
that's incredibly harsh, Alex.
The man's just given us 2 hours of his time, Alex.
It got a little mention in the summer because of a bit of interest. So we spoke a little bit, but not a lot, because at the end of the day, I'm happy at the moment, and we'll wait and see. Maybe in a couple of months we might revisit it, and we'll go from there. Like I said, I'm looking to move up, so that will certainly help.
Yeah, well, we hope as a 35-year-old you get that.
I'm enjoying it anyway, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, we hope it's a League One season for next year for you. You know,
that'd be lovely. That'd be just not Wembley. Just not Wembley.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
If there's one thing we've learned, we need to finish top 3.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. Do a lot of Crewe fans, I know, share this opinion, and we've had the discussion on the podcast of how have you never played higher? Do you think you're playing the best that you've ever played in your career right now?
Certainly, it's up there. I think I had a very good 2 years at Newport, the first playoff campaign. I'll be honest, my year at Shrewsbury was, I should have been given the chance to do it. But it's being in the right time at the right place. It's being in contract at the right time. It's being out of contract at the right time. Maybe I found my best football is when I'm in contract. And then obviously it's then harder to move. Not that I'm looking to move, but that's when teams are like, do we want to buy him? Or do we buy someone? Or do we take someone that's out of contract? So, well, obviously I'm coming off the back of playoff campaigns. I'm in contract at Newport both times. So the opportunity's not there to then see what would have happened. So I'll always, yes, I would love to have played higher. I feel my ability is good enough to play higher, but it's just not meant to be at the moment. So I'll just enjoy playing the level that I'm playing at, and we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully one day I will get a chance to play at a higher level. I've been told that by a few people, but it's just everything happens for a reason for me.
League One next season.
Touch wood. We'll have, it's a long way to go. What will be 7th of October? We've got another, 10 games in, 11 games in, 35 games left. We'll see what happens, but let's give it a good go.
Okay, I think that will probably do us for today. So, Mickey, I think it's very important that I say thank you so much for being so generous with your time. You know, we've been on over 2 hours now. Also, I've said it before already today, but thank you for what you've done for the club in the 14, 15 months you've been with us so far, and hopefully listening to you for a little bit longer yet.
No, thank you. My pleasure. I really enjoyed it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Alex, Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure was all mine. Yeah, pleasure was all mine, Stuart. Thanks for inviting us on.
Thank you.
Thank you, as ever, for listening. Until next